Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this evening I am joined by Kevin Graham. Welcome to the show, Kev.
That's decent. That was decent. That's first game of football and I've enjoyed in quite a wee while. I must admit, like in that second half, I'm going, I just didn't want this team to get beat. They didn't deserve to get beat tonight. There was so much good tonight. When we equalised, like, oh no, here we go again. But we just went up the park. Christopher Ayer showed Jeremy Frimpong how to do it, and David Turnbull arrived perfectly on time into the box. We thoroughly deserved that tonight against a very, very good team. And I think I'm just going to embrace tonight. I'm not going to talk about protests or anything like that. I'm just going to embrace that game tonight and go to my bed quite happy.
You've got to, Kevin. It's been a long time coming. I know that in the great scheme of things, in terms of the position within the Europa League group, it doesn't mean a hell of a lot for Celtic. But we needed that win, Kevin. We needed that performance. Now, all the attributes, all the different elements that we would expect as prerequisites as professional footballers, never mind for Celtic, things like energy, appetite, desire, but which have been missing for most of the season, came back in abundance tonight. The freshness of that side was a joy to watch. It was a side that I felt before the game might have had a disjointed feel about it, Kevin, because when you throw a group of footballers together, there's no guarantee they're going to gel, but gel they did. And I've seen so many positive comments coming through that we're going to start off with Soro. I mean, you look at what Soro did for the team tonight. I mean, he was basically the enforcer in front of the back two that has been missing all. I'm getting text messages from JP Mason, keep the faith. They've been missing all season long. That's the kind of thing. I mean, have we not been watching this guy at training every single day? Why is it taking until a crisis point before we throw Soro in? The guy was excellent tonight.
It was absolutely brilliant tonight, and that's the question. You go, well, if he can do that, why has he not been anywhere near the team? Same with Turnbull. And look, these guys, the night they didn't have much pressure on them tonight, but they want to go and show what they could do. They wanted to go and show to Neil Lennon, to everybody, to us that are watching at home, that they could contribute going forward. And both of them have showed that. They're going to have good games, they're going to have bad games. All players are going to have good games and bad games. But tonight, guys like Turnbull, Soro, Henderson, and even Kamala showed us that they could offer us something completely different. I mean, I wonder if that side completely spooked Lille. I wondered if they actually thought they were going to get a team completely low in confidence, low in energy. And you have a look at the team that they actually faced. You look at McGregor as well, right? He made the mistake for the goal, but he must have loved playing alongside Soro tonight.
Definitely.
A wee ball of energy. You look at Moy on the left-hand side, you look at Kamala and you look at Turnbull. They must have all loved playing together because all had energy and they all wanted it more tonight. And it was just really good. And look, it's a one-off. We've had another shit show the last 6 weeks. I think we just need to enjoy that and...
We've got to enjoy it.
What it is.
We've got to take as much from it as we can. And I think this goes back to previous games in Europe, Kevin, whereby we're saying, they are important because you can turn a corner, you can get some momentum, you can get players showing you attributes that have been missing all season. Now, you've already mentioned Soro. Exactly. I mean, I would go as far to saying, I'm not getting carried away, I'm just basing this on tonight's performance. I would start with Soro on Sunday against Kilmarnock. I would start definitely with Turnbull, absolutely no shadow of a doubt. And I'd be looking at Hazard and Henderson as well, Kevin, because I think, Hazard didn't have much to do. There was that one save kind of late in the game, 80 minutes up. But it was an important save at that point, because otherwise you're looking at yet another lead being thrown away. So, I mean, of the four I've mentioned, do you start Hazard, Henderson, Soro and Turnbull? Are you as bold as that on Sunday?
Right, the goalkeeper situation. The big man done well tonight. It's quite strange that we've got two goalkeepers and both of them are left. We've got two goalkeepers who are left-footed. The big man reminds me of Craig Gordon. He's got that sort of big lanky build.
Mm-hmm.
Goalkeepers is a strange position. It wouldn't surprise me to see Barkas back in. It wouldn't surprise me one little bit. But I think the big man can go home tonight and be very pleased for his debut, even though he lost. Even though all goalkeepers want a clean sheet, but he couldn't do much about any of the goals. So the big man's fine. I would play Sorrow without a doubt. I would play Turnbull without a doubt. Henderson, he showed well in flashes, but it depends what we want to do. It depends how bad Frimpong's injury is, in truth. But I would look at going to 4. I would look at going to 4 at the back again, 4 in the centre, 4 in the midfield, and the 2 or the 1-1 up front. I think we need to go back to that because we looked extremely compact tonight against an extremely good side.
We did. I think I'm looking at the momentum. I'm thinking that I'm looking at the fact that, although he didn't have much to do, I think Hazard looked confident, Kevin, which is something I haven't seen much from Barkas. Another change that I guess you would need to consider is Ayer right back.
Look, sometimes you've just got to go for that bit of solidity, and sometimes you've just got to shut the back door. And we need to shut the back door because you look at the goals that we've lost on the breakaway over the last 6 weeks, they've been absolutely terrible. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes just having another defender there, and you tell the defender, look, I didn't want you bombing up the wing. Look, I'm quite glad he did bomb up the wing for that for the third goal. But sometimes you just need that bit of solidity. It takes me back to, don't remember, after John Barnes got sacked, Kenny Dalglish took over, and we played Kilmarnock in the semi-final of the League Cup at Hampden, and he played Alan Stubbs in the centre of midfield. I remember it. We had 6 defenders on the park that night, and we went through with a wonder goal for Lubo, and that all that was just to get through that game. He just went, I'm going back to basics. I'm going to make this team hard to beat. I'm going to put a bit of energy and steel into this side. And that's what happened tonight. We just went back to basics, a bit of energy fired into that side. A load of guys who haven't been playing with the pressure in the last couple of weeks. I mean, a lot of the players, if you played Brown, any of the rest of them tonight, they've had poor performances over the last 6 weeks. These guys haven't. These guys haven't had poor performances. They're coming in probably still confident, probably still, I can do a job here. And they've proved that they can. Well,
they certainly have, and you could see Turnbull was tiring, and quite rightly so. I mean, by about the 83rd minute, he stopped running, but he'd done so much work up to that point. Kevin, James Pearson 88 is making a good point on YouTube. I just hope we don't revert to old ways and methods on Sunday. There's so much zest in this performance, and we have to build on it. I tend to agree with that. I mean, I'm not saying it's wholesale changes that we need to keep. I think what Klimala gives you is a lot of running and a lot of hard work. He doesn't have the flair of someone like Edouard. He doesn't have that ability to strike something for 25 yards that Griffiths has. So I don't think he would be a first pick for me. But certainly when I'm looking at Sorrow and Turnbull, for me, after tonight's performance, you stick with them. You keep that vibrancy that we've seen this evening, and hopefully that can roll into the game on Sunday, and then you start putting a string of results together. I mean, I'm not convinced 100%, and I'm being very, very picky here. I'm not 100% convinced with Duffy. I mean, there was a few occasions where he mistimed really simple headers. One of them obviously ended up with him handling the ball, and the Lille players wanted him sent off, Kevin. A couple of really basic errors. Is that a confidence issue that you think?
I think the issue when the equalising goal, he gave away the free kick, just being late. The boy just got there before him. He did win the header again, which we scored from. There is a confidence issue with Duffy. I mean, he would have been unlucky to get sent off, but it was a handball when he completely mistimed that header. But I think you've got to go same again with the back four, don't you? I mean,
what you're trying to do there,
you've got to go with something that's worked.
You want to get a relationship, especially between the middle two. You know, you definitely want to start and build some kind of partnership between the two. And, you know, if that was to change again on Sunday, then it's going to be difficult to try and get that fluidity within the team. I thought they'd done particularly well. I think, you know, players like Laxalt and El Yunusi didn't do the spectacular tonight, but they've done exactly what was required of them, Kevin. You know, Laxalt is a great ball winner. He's a tremendous ball winner, Laxalt, isn't he? I think El Yunusi, we love him for his kind of creative flair. He didn't do much of that tonight, but he was exactly what we needed up the left-hand side. He was solid. And again, I think when Ayeti came on, he gave you something completely different from Klamala. But there was a bit of greed, I believe, where he should have released Henderson up the right-hand side about 10 minutes from the end. So loads of positives coming out of tonight's performance. Joe McAlinden, welcome to the show, Joe. Neil Lennon will prove to be on his game if he starts Soro and Turnbull on Sunday. Now, Kevin, I think this is a really good point because, you know, if you weren't to continue with that on Sunday, then I would be completely bemused. You've got to start both of those players, without a doubt.
If you look up the football book of cliches, then the manager has now got a sore head for the team on Sunday. The players that came in the night have definitely gave him something to think about. He was looking for a spark for somewhere. Maybe it was under his nose all the time, and the fact that he's been stubborn and faithful to certain players has maybe hampered us when we've been trying to get out this rut. And tonight he's seen guys that come in have worked very well within the game plan, because you could actually see there was a game plan tonight. And maybe that says a lot about the energy and the attitude of the players. Tactics are brilliant, but only if the players implement them. And we have been saying over the last couple of weeks, it doesn't look like the players looked like they knew what they were doing. Maybe they just didn't have the energy to do what they wanted. The management wanted them to do. But tonight there was definitely, everybody was on message tonight. Everybody. There was individual mistakes. The goals that we continue to lose are so cheap. Poundland would reject them, but we need to sort that out. But we need to sort out those individual errors. But look, tonight's positive. Tonight's the first positive in this dark winter that we're facing. So
the winter of discontent. Now I'm going to ask you, Kevin. You know, I'm not getting, overexcited about one result. I think we've got to enjoy it. Of course we do. But I'm going to ask you the question. Could this be the turning point?
Oh, I didn't want to think about that, didn't I? I just want to enjoy. Look, only games will tell if it's a turning point. We've got a good one against a decent outfit. We've got Kilmarnock coming on Sunday. Now, Kilmarnock are a very well organised side, as we've already seen this season. They'll play completely different for Lille. They'll be very tight and very compact. If we go out and win well on Sunday, then we can look forward to the following Sunday. And I think I'm going to go into the other big book of cliches here. It's one game at a time here, and if we get to later on, if we're going to Ibrox on the 2nd of January or the 3rd of January, whenever it is, the 2nd, and we haven't lost a game, we get a result at Ibrox. Look, I'm letting myself run away from myself here. Only time will tell if this is a turning point. That's what I should have just said instead of just rambling on.
Well, you've got to look at a point. We've been looking at a point of this season turning. We've been looking at I asked the question a few weeks back, Kevin, what's the best 90 minutes you've seen all season? People were saying, well, perhaps it was against Hibs 3-0 at Celtic Park, or maybe it was the Aberdeen game 2-0 at Hampden. But it was actually tricky to try and figure out what the best performance was of the season. I would say that's the best performance we've seen all season. Would you agree with that?
The most coherent for the 90 minutes.
Was that some side? That's a decent side we've just beaten tonight.
I think it's been the most coherent for the 90 minutes. I think there has been games where we have looked good, then all of a sudden it's fell apart. But I think that's been the most coherent that we've been for the 90 minutes. And also the way that we reacted to the 2 goals that we lost. That was that was important. That was important. And that was good for us. That was good. That was good to see that mentality there. Good to see that mentality and confidence there.
It was a test of character. We've seen it so often. We threw away 2 goals away against Lille. We were up against Aberdeen, Pittodrie, where I finally, my attitude finally tipped. And I suggested at that point that Neil Lennon had to go. We threw away a 3-2 lead. We should have held on to that lead. And I think against... AC Milan was one of the prime examples. I mean, we went up against Sparta Prague 1-0. We ended up getting beat 4-1 as well, Kevin. So it was a test of character, but we showed enough mettle. I think a big part of that really was the performance of Sorrow, because that was the missing link in the previous games. They were cutting through us, whereas he was breaking up the play so well. I've seen someone compare him to Nguemo. I think he's far more effective. I didn't mind Nguemo, I've got to admit, but I think he was far more effective than Nguemo playing in that position. I've got to also ask you, because this is something that came up earlier on in the season, what on earth is LENNYBALL? I mean, there's tongue in cheek there. What is it? Does it exist? Are we going to see more of it on Sunday?
Was that not a term somebody for Athletic coined? LENNYBALL, the return of LENNYBALL.
Perhaps I should remove it then.
Maybe they might sue us. I don't know what LENNYBALL is. If LENNYBALL is what we were playing after the winter break, then I'll welcome it back. Last season, if that's LENNYBALL, then I'll be quite welcome to that. But I'm going to bring this down a notch. We've finished bottom of the group. We've still finished bottom of the group. We've had a horrendous European campaign. The last couple of years, we've had 2 last 32s. We probably should have been last 16 last season as well. So let's not kid ourselves on that there hasn't been a drop off. Tonight we saw a lot of positives. I mean, it was a young side. I think the average age of the side was 24. The side that we ended on the park with the average age was 24. So there's some decent materials for whoever the manager's going to be going forward to work with.
Well,
so that's what we've got to take as a positive.
Well, what I would say is, anything prior to tonight has not been good enough, and we've said it after every single game that it's not been good enough. But if you focus on the positives from this evening, and hopefully we can take them into Sunday, Kevin, because we've been told by the powers that be that Neil Lennon will be in charge until the game against Rangers, and it will be reviewed in January. So if you're trying to look at positives, Jungle Lion said earlier on, sometimes a manager happens upon a team. Did Neil Lennon expect to win that tonight? I would like to think so, but I certainly didn't when I seen the team line. I mean, I said at the beginning of the game that it was very disjointed to throw a group of players together like that. But you know what? It worked. So maybe we got a bit of luck tonight. Maybe we did get a wee bit of luck, but you've got to capitalise on that. You can't say, but we've been poor all season, so let's just revert back to old and not take the positives from what we've seen tonight. I would actually go as far to say one of our biggest issues this season has been a goalkeeper. So why not play Hazard? Why not play him on Sunday? Why go back to Barkas? With this language style where he gets the ball, he takes a while, he plays it from the back. I just think you get a goalkeeper who can command his area, build a relationship with his 2 centre-halves, and that's more than we've had all season. I'd stick with Hazard, I really would. I would also stick with Sorrow, and I would stick with Turnbull. Henderson, I think, has really put his name back into the picture. He might not start because we've got other players coming back, Kevin, influential players. I don't think I would start with Klimala either. I think he'd done a lot of running tonight, but certainly from tonight, I would take 3 positives. 4 if you want to count Ayer at right back, because we're struggling for a right back now due to the situation with El Hamid. Obviously that he's been quoted that it does look as though his Celtic career might be coming to a close in January. The only other right back that we've got is Ralston, and you're not going to play Ralston, so perhaps Ayer's going to be shifted again, and this time to right back. He looked very comfortable at right back.
He does. He can do a job at right back, but not for me for the long term. It always seems a stopgap, but sometimes you need to, as you say, you stumble into solutions for things that are going wrong. For me, I would keep the same back 5, the same 2 in the middle of the park. It'll be interesting to really see Sorrow against a team that's sitting deep, but then what you would want Sorrow to do there is where we've been poor domestically is we can't stop the breakaway. So you would hope that Sorrow would be able to cover any breakaways that happen domestically. On the right hand side, I would actually play Christie on the right hand side, and I would bring in Eddie for Kamala. That would be my team for Sunday.
No, well, I mean, it's interesting because obviously, we've not seen much of Sorrow. I've seen loads of people calling for him to play. And again, I've got to admit, I just thought, he looked okay when he came on for 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, Kevin. But I hadn't seen enough to say that he was going to be better than what we already had. But they must have been seeing this all season in training. He's a starter for me, without a doubt. And Turnbull, absolutely brilliant. Thought he was really good when he came on against St Johnstone as well at the weekend. So there's 2 changes, definitely. Then the question will be Hazard. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the team line is on Sunday. But we're in a situation now, and I'm not getting carried away, but we've got to just look after our own backyard now, Kevin. I certainly don't tune into Rangers games, like a lot of Rangers fans tune into this broadcast. But I can't see much of them on this evening. So we've just got to look after what we're doing as a football club. And I think if we do that, then you know what? We can start stringing some results together, because we've said all season we've got a good squad, we've just not seen it. So if we can start getting a wee bit more vibrancy from the youngsters that we've mentioned, I'm calling them youngsters, they're 22 years of age. They should be getting games. They're at an age where they should be playing regularly, and hopefully we can start seeing that more and more often. One thing I would also say is I've given Neil Lennon a hell of a lot of stick this season, Kevin, and I think it's been justified. I've got to say, it's been justified. Was it not brilliant to see him celebrating that goal from Turnbull?
It was brilliant. I mean, right, we all know our thoughts on Neil Lennon, but you do enjoy it. You do enjoy Neil Lennon celebrating a Celtic goal. You do want Neil Lennon to be the man to lead us to 10 in a row. You do want Neil Lennon to have a treble underneath his belt as a manager, but there has been problems. And those problems just haven't went away tonight. Tonight's an absolute bonus, an absolute positive, but the faults that Neil and his coaching staff and the faults with the recruitment and the problems in the back that were there 18 months ago are still here. We've had a decent result, but we can't let the result mask the ongoing problems, which has happened over the last 5-6 years. But I'm just here to really enjoy the night. I'm not thinking about that. I'm not even going to have a late night kebab to like comfort eat the night. I'm
glad to hear that.
I'm very, very happy.
No, that's good. But some of the issues that you mentioned there, I think they are deep-rooted issues within the club, and obviously they need to be addressed. I think the one thing that instantly can be looked at is what's happening on the park, Kevin. Some of the more deep-rooted issues with the board, with the structure in terms of the recruitment, with the coaching staff being put in place by someone who obviously shouldn't be involved in football matters. These are issues that, as you say, it doesn't wash away because you win a game in the Europa League. But one thing that we can definitely affect in the short term, in the immediate term, is what's happening on a park. And you can do that by removing players that haven't played all season, haven't performed all season, potentially don't even want to be at the club, and replace them with the vibrancy that we've seen tonight. And I think that, it will be a real disappointment for me if at least 2 of the guys that we've mentioned don't start on Sunday, but even potentially 3. I mean, we're coming up here, genuine chance for Hazard. Who's the last... I mean, we're talking over the last few days about the youth development at Celtic Park, a huge investment every single year. What we're doing, are we just producing players for every other club in Scotland? I made the point when Scotland were playing last month that obviously we've got, Andy Robertson, Stephen O'Donnell and Declan Gallagher, who came through the system, never played a single game for Celtic. We're just constantly producing players. And what I wasn't saying is they should be playing for Celtic and they're good enough to play for Celtic in the here and now. What I'm saying is we are producing players that never seem to play. When was the last goalkeeper that Celtic produced? Was it David Marshall? Probably.
Marshall, It was Marshall,
Who was the last centre-half that we produced? Steve McManus. Who was the last striker that we produced that was actually a prolific goal scorer? Jerry Craney. I mean, That's going back 30 years. So I think that what they do bring to the team is something completely different, something that should be a prerequisite. I said that at half-time, the vibrancy, the energy. But we've not been seeing it from a lot of the players that you would expect it from, Kevin. So I would bench some of the players. And I said at the top of the show, if you don't want to play for Celtic, you're causing problems, you're not giving us 100%, don't play them. I'd much rather see Henderson than some guy who thinks they're too big for Celtic Football Club playing on Sunday.
Definitely, and I mean, I kind of disagreed with you because Eddie's one of them that wants away. But we need to actually plan for the future as well. We need to plan for life without Eddie, life without Ayer. And if you've got guys like Welsh came on there for the last 10 minutes, it turned out to be as well. Never done anything wrong. These young laddies and guys like Sorrow, Turnbull, Ayeti's only 23, are going to be there next season. They're going to be there by the end of January. And we're going to need to trust them at some point. Hazard's going to be there as well. So we've got to have a look longer term as well for the benefit of the club. And tonight showed that there's maybe some diamonds there. But they need to be nurtured right. They need to be developed right. And that's a big saying, developed. I would love us. I mean, this season, as you've already said, Paul, on numerous occasions, this season's a crossroad for us. And if the crossroad means we've got to go down younger, leaner, fitter, I'm on that. I'm all in. Where do I sign up for that?
Well, absolutely, because, you're going into January, we've got doubts about the recruitment in the summer, Kevin. Big doubts. You've got 6 players and you're not quite sure how many of them are going to be last in the distance. You're bringing in the kids today. I'm calling them kids because of the lack of experience. 22. I mean, that isn't a kid. Some players have played hundreds of first-team games by that age. And actually, they're shining, Kevin. They're shining. And it brought a freshness to the team. Now, Neil Lennon was probably forced into that. I mean, I think one of his biggest failings is his loyalty to his various players. I'm a big champion of Ryan Christie. But, look at his dead balls. Look at his corners. Compare them tonight with Turnbull's. Turnbull's corners were excellent. I mean, he was they were brilliant. And the free kicks from about 20 yards out left and right, Turnbull can actually find a man with the ball. I mean, these are things that you would think at this level you should expect. But we've not had that all season. And what happens is you start creating chances that previously we weren't creating. So, some of these things that are just, when you're looking at a Neil Lennon team, Brown and McGregor, they always play. Christie, he always plays. Maybe it's time to mix that up. Would you expect Brown to start on Sunday?
I wouldn't start Brown. I think if you start Brown, what does that say to Sorrow? What does that say to Turnbull? That they can come in and do extremely well, but the next thing you know, they're benched for guys who are having a poor season, who are out of form. And even the guys who were dropped tonight, rested tonight, whatever you want to say, might have a look at the performances of these boys tonight and go, by the way, I need to up my game here. These guys can come in and take my jersey. And maybe Lenny needs to actually give them that message starting on Sunday. By the way, there is guys here that can take your jersey. So
exactly.
So I'm look. It's been a good night, a really good night. Some real positives for until at least Sunday, until we kick off at least on Sunday. And I'm all for. Lenny's moved quite a lot of pieces over the last 6 weeks, but it's all been the same players and he's tried different things with them. Tonight he brought in different players and they worked for him, and he's got to take that on board. He's got to learn for that. The coaching staff have got to learn for that.
There's a few, you said there's a few headaches for him on Sunday. I think some of them are absolute certainties. I mean, Stephen James has asked what would normally be a difficult question for me. Would you play Turnbull ahead of Christie? Based on tonight's performance, yeah, I would like to see the both of them in the team. But I don't want players shoehorned in, Kevin.
I wouldn't mind seeing the same formation with Christie on the right hand side. Christie doing the Moy role, but on the right hand side. I think Christie's got the energy to get up and down that right hand side, but he might cut inside because he likes coming in. But I think Christie on the right, he played on the right hand side for Scotland, a front three. So I'd be quite okay with him on the right hand side of midfield. I would be, and he's got that creativity, but Turnbull has to take the corners in the set plays now.
No, 100%, 100%. Now, as we say, Klimala worked really well, but you're starting with Edward on Sunday then. You still starting with one up front. I know Turnbull was really, really high up the pitch, but he obviously wasn't playing as a second striker. But would you start with one up front?
Again, you've got to look at the positives that we took from tonight, and the shape was the positive. So it's not a case of starting with one up front. It's starting with a shape that actually worked for us. And the first shape it's worked for us in how many number of weeks?
Well, I would go as far to say it's the best performance of the season. I'm not getting over, committed to the fact that Lenny's turned this around. Of course I'm not. But what I would say is it's the best performance I've seen all season. We've watched every single minute of it, Kevin, win, lose or draw. We've had to comment on it directly after the final whistle. It's not always easy. But tonight has been positive. Even you, and you are, sometimes a prophet of doom. Even you've been positive. Jungle Lion says that Brown might be a bigger influence in the dressing room and in the dugout from now on. Well, why not? I couldn't understand why he started the AC Milan game when we had St Johnstone on Sunday. Couldn't understand that.
Brown could be a perfect impact sub coming on in games where you need his experience. If you're 2-1 up, 1-0 up, backs against the wall for the last 15 minutes, needing another foothold in the game, Brown could be a great sub to bring on. Just use his experience.
Well, Kevin, it's been enjoyable this evening. Thanks very much for joining us. I'd like to remind everybody that's tuning in, because they are tuning in large numbers now, that we're running a massive charity weekender. We're running that on the weekend of the Scottish Cup final, which I hope is a quadruple treble weekender. We have, Kevin, 22 different shows, including ACSOM, who have signed up to this, and that, some massive big hitting podcasts. We've got the Kano Foundation, we've got St Rocks, we've got the Cynic, they're involved, the Homeboys are involved, Four Tims and a Pod are involved, Celtic Underground, who apparently are the oldest football podcast in the world. There's loads of them, and we're making a wee promo video that we'll put out as soon as possible so that everybody knows what it is we're doing. We're actually supporting 4 different charities, Kevin, and you can visit the fundraising page by clicking on the link underneath this video. We're currently sitting at over £4,000. It's 4,215. It has been confirmed that the Peter Lawwell interview won't be happening that weekend, but we do hope to have Peter on the show in the new year. But what we have done is we've been speaking to the business who pledged $9,000 for it, and they're still going to give us the $9,000. How good is that? So fantastic. I think before we go into the weekend, Kevin, we'll probably have about $15,000 in the bank. Every single penny is going to be going to charity. Everyone who's given us £1 to £20 to 500, even £1,000. Somebody gave us £1,000. Thank you all very much for everything you've done. And if you've got any auction items you want to throw into our auction, then let me know. We've got a couple of signed tops. We've got a Ryan Christie match worn jersey for Scotland, Kevin. Loads happening that weekend, so please get involved.
That weekend proves we're more than a football club. We're more than results on the pitch. The way that everybody's came together for that weekend shows it shows that we're more than a football club. We're more than 11 guys kicking a ball on a football field.
Absolutely. I mean, that weekend, it's been heartening to see the amount of people coming together for one common goal. It doesn't matter that we're hosting it, Kevin. Anybody could host it. It's just the fact that we're bringing everybody together to raise money for the most vulnerable in what has been a very, very difficult year for everybody. And I'm not just talking about football there. I'm talking about everything else that's been going on. So thanks everybody for getting involved. I'll leave the squabbles between Rangers fans who have got nothing better to do tonight and obviously our own supporters to rage on, and I'll obviously work my way through the comments later on, Kevin. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much once again, Kevin Graham, a positive Kevin Graham, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.
Cheers, Paul.